Gonzaga flat out dominated the Pilots on a cathartic and emotional senior night, clinching first place in the WCC one final time.
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome into the Locked On Zags podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton, here to bring you news and updates on all things Zag athletics. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back, and there's no fork needed. Vanilla-y, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. And folks, it truly is party time in Spokane. Gonzaga is officially a conference champion one final time in the WCC, locking up a share of that title for the 23rd time in Coach Few's tremendous career with the Zags. They defeat the Portland Pilots, stay undefeated at home. All sorts of fantastic, fun stuff happening on Wednesday night at the McCarthy Athletic Center. We're going to break it all down. Every angle, the good things Gonzaga did, the not so good things, Innocente's defense on Joel Foxwell, we'll get to that. We'll also talk about what this means for Gonzaga going into the conference tournament, some other fun updates around this team as well. The final score, 89-48. We were not kidding. It was a dominant effort from Mark Few's team on Wednesday night. It was senior night. Gonzaga clinched at least a share of the WCC title. We'll talk more about that in the final segment of the show. They also cemented that they will be the number one seed in the West Coast Conference Tournament. Again, we'll get more into that later in the show. But also, for the 8th time in Mark Few's tenure at Gonzaga, they finished the regular season undefeated at home. Did not lose a single game at home. And to be honest, I'm actually a little surprised that has only happened 8 times because they so rarely lose at home. But the number of years, I didn't count it, but I imagine the number of years where Gonzaga lost just one home game, probably to St. Mary's or BYU maybe, feels like quite often where they finished the year, 15-1, 16-1 at home. Just tremendous stuff from them to not lose a single game at McCarthy this year. There were some close calls. We all remember watching Barry Wong's 3-point shot bounce just off the rim. We all remember going into overtime against Seattle U, but at the end of the day, the Zags never lost a game in Spokane, and that's always a fun fact to be able to say about your season. It was also senior night. Gonzaga debuted a new starting lineup in this one. We expected that would happen because there's always a new lineup on senior night. Mario Saint-Supery, of course, the freshman, starts with 4 seniors alongside him. Adam Miller, Steele Venters re-enters the starting lineup. Noah Holland gets his first and only career start for Gonzaga, and then Graham Ike starts as well. Jalen Worley did not get to participate in the senior night festivities. Unfortunately, he did not play in this game, still resting and recovering from that thigh bruise that he suffered last time Gonzaga played Portland back on February 4th. Sounds like it was just rest. They said he was a game time decision. He was kind of working out with the team a little bit before the game, before ultimately not participating in the final warm-up. So I think he was close to being able to play. They made what I think was probably the wise decision to hold him out because you want him fully prepared and rested and ready to go as much as he can be for Saturday's game against St. Mary's. So he doesn't get to play in this game. Tyon Grant-Foster is the lone senior who does not start in this game, but he played big minutes off the bench. Very cool to see all the seniors kind of have their moment in the sun in this game. All of them scored at least a bucket in this game. We got chants of "We Want Holland" from the crowd late in the game, so he re-entered after starting the contest. Steele Venters didn't score till towards the end of the game, but he did knock down a 3. That was great to see as he's been out, not only out of the rotation, he has not been playing the last couple of games for Gonzaga, so nice to see him get a moment here in this game as well. It was also noted by the broadcast, not exactly a shock, but that Steele Venters is going to apply for a waiver to get another year of eligibility. We'll see what happens. We laid this out on yesterday's show. If you missed it, you can go back and listen to that. But effectively, he's only played 3 years. That should count against him, but he's been in college for over 7 years. I'm not sure the NCAA will give him that, especially with what happened with Tyon this past year. Here's some good stuff that happened in Gonzaga's game. Pretty much everything. Honestly, it was a great all-around dominant performance from the Zags. Their defense, though, was just smothering. We'll talk more about Innocenti specifically in the second segment of this show, but this is the stat that I think really tells you the story you need to know. Portland had 22 turnovers and 17 made field goals in this game. They turned the ball over 5 more times than they made a bucket. Gonzaga's defense was stifling, sweltering, whatever word that you want to use. There was like a 7-minute stretch in the first half where Portland didn't score. I think there was a similar 7-8 minute stretch in the second half. At the start of the second half where they didn't score, Gonzaga got all sorts of steals. They had 12 of them in this game. And even when UP wasn't coughing the ball up, they weren't putting it in the net. 44% on 2-pointers, 20% from 3. That offense that scored 87 points at the Chiles Center scored nearly half that in this game. Just an incredible adjustment for Gonzaga's defense in this one. Speaking of that defense, Graham Ike, he was great offensively. He had 12 of Gonzaga's first 17 points. None of that is a shock. He finished 1 point shy of what would have been, I think, his 9th consecutive 20-point game. 19 points for him, 8 rebounds. He was fantastic. But defense is where he really shined in this game. 7 steals. 7 of Gonzaga's 12 steals were credited to Graham Ike. That ties a program record set by Derek Rivio in 2004. It has been 22 years since a player since a player had 7 steals in a game. And it was, as you would expect, a pesky point guard, not a hulking center in Graham Ike. But Graham was so great at knocking the ball loose from UP's bigs. They were not strong enough to hold on to the ball. I'm surprised he didn't get called for more fouls because he was swinging down to knock that ball loose, but he got it out of there, got Gonzaga out in transition. Just a really, really excellent performance from Graham, again, on both sides of the ball in this one. The point guard play for Gonzaga was also tremendous in this game. It has been a while since we have seen both Mario Saint-Supery and Braeden Smith play well in the same game, but my goodness, does it remind you the ceiling that this team has when both these guys are firing on all cylinders, and that is what happened in this game. Mario had 12 points. He was 4 of 7 from 3. He had 2 assists and 0 turnovers. He was an absolute bucket from the perimeter, made most of those shots in the second half. His shot is absolute butter when he is on. Braeden Smith, however, was even better. Coming off the bench, 15 points, perfect 6 of 6 shooting, that including nailing all 3 of his threes. He has not been a good 3-point shooter this year, but we knew the capability was there, and he knocked them all down in this one. He also had 4 assists, 2 steals, and 1 turnover. Your point guards combined for 27 points. They combined to go 7 of 10 from 3, and they combined for 6 assists and 1 turnover. That is an unbelievable game from those 2 guys here. Also, like I said, all the seniors scored. On senior night, what more can you ask for? Noah Halan had one of the first buckets of the game. Graham scored the first 7 points, and then Halan scored a bucket at the rim to give them 9 points. He also had an assist to Graham early in the game. He did take a 3 late in the game, which, man, oh man, I think that place would have exploded if he had knocked that down, but still really, really fun to see him get some minutes early in this game and to get a bucket to go down. Again, it took until towards the end of the game for Steele to get a shot, but he did drill a 3. Nice to see that for him. Also a player who might legitimately be needed at some point in the postseason, so hope that kind of gets some momentum going for him as well. All told, I think the seniors combined to score 42 of Gonzaga's points in this game. Zags also shot 39% from the 3-point line. I'm not sure I'd call that as much of a positive. They took way too many threes, and we'll talk more about that in the second segment, but ultimately, I mean, you can't complain about making 14 threes in a game, right? That's incredible. 14 of 36, mind you, that's a lot of 3-point attempts in this game. But with Mario shooting well, with Braeden shooting well, Graham knocked down a couple of them as well. Zags also 9 of 11 from the free throw line. Tyon 2 of 3, Innocenti 3 of 3. Nice to see those guys not missing free throws, which has been a problem this year. Not so good stuff for Gonzaga. Well, we'll stick on that 3-point shooting a little bit. Tyon takes too many threes. It's been a problem pretty much all season long. He went 0 of 5 in this game. The caveat here is that he had 1 3 that was taken away from him when the refs reviewed it and determined his foot was on the line. So it's sort of like he was actually 1 of 6, but he wasn't. He was 0 of 5. He took 5 actual 3-point attempts in this game and did not make a single one of them. He was good otherwise. He finished around the rim well. Again, he made his free throws. He made good plays defensively. He just took too many threes. That's been an issue for him all year. Shot selection remains a problem for Tyon. I don't think it's going to get better between now and the end of the season. Gonzaga also had 10 turnovers. That's a little nitpicky. It was a high possession game. A lot of them came towards the end of the game anyway. Wasn't that big of a deal. Graham had 3. Davis Fogel had 3. And then the Ismaila Diani minutes continue to not be very good. He played 9 minutes in this game. He did get an and one bucket and made his free throw, but he also had 3 fouls in 9 minutes. I got a little bit of a chuckle when Greg Heister on the broadcast said, "Oh, and Ismaila Diani's in the game." And literally while he was saying that sentence, the ref blew a whistle and called a foul on him. It's just, it's kind of what we have seen from him this year. And unfortunately remains a source of consternation for what next year's roster is going to look like, because he just doesn't look like he's taken that leap for this Gonzaga team. Well, Ike led the team in scoring, rebounding, and steals. But one could argue that Emmanuel Innocenti was actually Gonzaga's MVP. I'm going to tell you why coming up in just a second.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. South Carolina rolled past Ole Miss 85-48 to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title and lock down the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. The Gamecocks extended their win streak over Ole Miss to 21 straight. UCLA dominated Wisconsin 80-60 to secure its first outright Big Ten regular season championship in program history. The Bruins improved to 27-1 overall and remain unbeaten in conference play. And number 12 TCU stormed back from a 13-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Iowa State 80-73. The Horned Frogs now sit alone atop the Big 12 standings and are 1 win away from clinching another regular season conference crown. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Folks, if you ever wanted to experience the NBA finals live and in person, then FanDuel is giving you a chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. You just use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. You get flights, tickets, the whole experience. And if you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time for you to lock that in. I love futures at this time of the year, whether it's picking a team to win a championship or to grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now not only can your pick net you some cash, it could also send you to the finals. Chet Holmgren and Oklahoma City plus 135 to repeat as NBA champions. Meanwhile, Julian Strawther, who has been red hot lately for the Denver Nuggets, his team at plus 600 to upset OKC and win it in the Western Conference. Folks, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, folks, segment 2, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast, still part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And folks, if you want to get Locked On Zags ad-free, you can do so with the Everydayer Club. You'll also get members-only Discord access. Join now at lockedonzags.supercast.com or find the link in the show notes. Well, we had our 5 keys to victory, the things we knew Gonzaga needed to do to avoid another catastrophic loss to the Pilots. We're going to lay out what those things were and how they went on Wednesday night in Spokane. Key number 1 was to stop Joel Foxwell. Basically as simple as that. Don't get caught in switches defensively. Don't let him attack the hedge screens. Don't let him break down the defense the way that he did all night long at the Child Center earlier this month. Gonzaga did exactly what I thought they would do in this game. One of the things that stood out to me while watching that game against Portland back at the Child Center, but also while looking at the box score, was that Innocenti played just 14 minutes in that game. And since that game, in the 5 subsequent games prior to Wednesday night, Innocenti averaged 34 minutes a game. It was clear that Mark Few had made the decision. This is a kid who needs to play basically as often as he can be on the floor because of what he brings to this team defensively. Innocenti did not start this game only because it was senior night and he is not a senior, but that proved exactly how important he is to this team. Joel Foxwell scored 8 points in the first 5 minutes of this game, not even 4 minutes of this game. He hit a 3 over Mario Saint-Supery. He hit another 3 over Mario Saint-Supery, and then he got fouled on a 3 and made 2 of those free throws. When that foul happened was the under 16 media timeout. It was like 15 minutes, 21 seconds in the game. So Foxwell made his 2 free throws. That got him to 8 points. That is when Innocenti subbed into the game. Joel Foxwell did not score again until there was less than 3.5 minutes left in the first half, and he only scored 1 bucket in the second half. He had 8 points in the first 4.5 minutes of this basketball game and scored 12 points total, and it directly correlates with when Emmanuel Innocenti came into this game. I mean, that's the story right there. Graham Ike had 7 steals and 19 points. Tyon Grant-Foster played great off the bench. The point guard scored 27 combined points. Gonzaga won this basketball game because Emmanuel Innocenti locked the heck down on Joel Foxwell and completely took Portland out of their rhythm. When he was unable to make anything happen off of high ball screens because Innocenti fought through them, kept him in front of him, and took away those driving lanes, UP's offense completely stalwart. It just went cold. They couldn't do anything. They were trying different things. He could not break down the defense, and Gonzaga rolled from there. Innocenti's performance doesn't really pop off of the screen, at least when you look at the box score, but he was unbelievably valuable to Gonzaga in this game. Foxwell finished this game 4 of 12. Again, that's after making his first 2 3-point attempts. 4 of 12, 2 of 6 from 3, did not make another one. He had 0 assists, folks. The conference's leading assist man this year, leader in total assists, leader in assists per game, had 0, but he also had 5 turnovers. Innocenti was an absolute superstar in this game and deserves all of the praise and credit in the world for what he did to lock down this very talented freshman for Portland in this game. Key number 2 for Gonzaga was to see more paint touches and better shot selection. And what we ended up seeing was Gonzaga making more of the shots that they took in the last game. I don't know if the shot selection was great in this game. They shot 19 of 27 on 2-pointers. That is 70% dominant. I mean, absolutely dominant on 2s in this game. Some of them were mid-range jumpers. Some of them were shots right at the rim. A lot of them were in transition. I think Braeden Smith bouncing the ball off the backboard to Tyon Grant-Foster. Another alley-oop to Tyon to close out the first half from Mario. Lots of shots right at the rim. But Gonzaga also shot 14 of 36 from 3. And again, that's 39%. This was probably the best, from a numbers perspective, 3-point shooting performance Gonzaga has had all year long. But they still missed a crap load of threes in this game and settled way too often. We mentioned Tyon going 0 of 5 from 3. There was so many times when players settled for threes early in the shot clock they did not need to take. It is still frustrating to see Gonzaga's offense. I mean, they scored 21 points in the first half of this game. 36 points in the first half of this game. Portland scored 21. 36 points is not great in the first half. They scored 53 in the second half, which was phenomenal. But the offense was not great early in this game, and it was partly because they settled for too many outside shots. It ended up evening out. I mean, they shot 10 of 19 from 3 in the second half, which is just crazy, crazy work from this team. But I hope this doesn't make them feel like they can continue to be reliant on the outside shot, because we have a full season's worth of data that shows that they cannot. Key number 3 for Gonzaga was to force turnovers and convert them into points. Mission accomplished. We already kind of talked about this. 22 turnovers for the Pilots. 12 of them were steals by Gonzaga. Gonzaga had a monstrous 26-6 advantage in points off turnovers. 26 points off 22 turnovers. That's fantastic. Again, a lot of live ball turnovers. There was one shot clock violation. There was a handful of times where they passed the ball out of bounds, lost the ball out of bounds, things like that. But again, 12 of those turnovers were steals. A lot of those were converted into points. There was Ike hitting a trailing 3 early in the first half. There was Tyon's deep 2. That came off of a turnover. The Smith alley-oop to Grant-Foster off the backboard came off of a turnover. A lot of their points came in transition because they were able to get steals, get takeaways, and run off of those. They had a 16-2 advantage in fast break points. They haven't had as many fast break points this year as they've had in the past, but 16 in this game was a good number, and a lot of that came from what they did defensively. Key number 4 for Gonzaga was to dominate on the glass. Can't really say it was dominant. They out-rebounded UP, but it was only 33-30 on the glass in this one. But again, no Braden Huff, of course, and also no Jalen Worley. That takes away 2 of their better rebounders in this game. Both teams had 10 offensive rebounds. it didn't end up being a significant factor. I mean, it was a 41-point win for Gonzaga, obviously, but something that you'd like to see them have a bigger margin in the rebounding category going forward. And then key number 5 was to let Davis Vogel cook. We kind of thought his athleticism and the lack of an offensive player in Braeden Huff would kind of allow Davis to thrive. Davis had a fine game. He just wasn't a particularly impactful player from an offensive perspective, or I should say from a scoring perspective. He had 6 points in this game. He shot 3 of 4 on 2-pointers, but 0 of 2 from 3. He did have a career-high 6 assists. And one of the things we've talked about with Davis as of late is his improvement as a playmaker and his improvement as a passer and his ability to play within the scope of Gonzaga's offense. 6 assists is a clear sign for a player who was not distributing the ball earlier in the year, which was fine. He was playing in garbage time and his role was basically to just score. But now to see him be able to impact the game with his passing is a huge boost for Gonzaga and a really promising sign of things to come for him next year. He also had 4 boards and 2 blocks and played 26 minutes. Certainly not a bad game from Davis Vogel, just not as impactful as a scorer as we thought he might be, especially in a game where Gonzaga scored nearly 90 points. Well, folks, Gonzaga still has plenty to play for on Saturday night in Moraga, but it sure is nice to have the number 1 seed in Las Vegas already locked up. We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, the biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. And being there live for something like that, that is bucket list stuff. And the hard part is always getting those tickets. Long queues, prices that jump around, and surprise fees at checkout. The GameTime app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Their app is insanely easy to use, folks. The GameTime guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. What you see is what you pay, period. The seat view feature is a game changer as well. You can see panoramic view from your seat before you buy. So there's no stress, there's no guesswork, just a smooth experience from start to finish. And that's what you want in the busiest part of the season. And if you are in the Bay Area and you want to see Gonzaga's final regular season conference game against St. Mary's, tickets for that game in Moraga are just $127 a pop at GameTime. So take the guesswork out of buying your college hoops tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Folks, welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which ones might be sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5-Hour Energy has a flavor for everyone, and they give you a boost with 0 sugar. I've always been a fan of Blue Raspberry, a sweet and tangy flavor with a taste that nature couldn't make, but it probably should have. I'd take the bold blue raspberry flavor and sweet finish number 1 in my draft, but my sleeper pick is the new Confetti Craze. It's a blend of rich and buttery confetti cake, vanilla frosting, and a sprinkle of sweetness. And you can't ignore the Hawaiian breeze. It's made with passion fruit, orange, and guava flavors, making it sweet yet smooth and tangy yet tart. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. All right, folks, segment 3, still talking about Gonzaga's massive 41-point win on senior night over the Portland Pilots and what it means for the Zags going into their regular season finale against the Gales of St. Mary's. We've said it a handful of times on the show. We said it on Wednesday's show. We said it on the Tuesday and Monday show. Gonzaga winning this game cements ironclad that they will be the number 1 seed in the West Coast Conference Tournament, and they will at least have a share of the WCC regular season title. That takes some of the pressure off of this game against St. Mary's. Now, do not get me wrong. Gonzaga has everything that they need to play for in this game. And I will also tell you, I am recording this game before the end of before the end of the Santa Clara St. Mary's game. It is currently just about halftime. It's a 2-point game. Literally either team could win. I will go through scenarios depending on which team, or I'll go through scenarios for either team. But for the Gales, there's a decent chance that they're playing this game with the opportunity to either finish first or second, tied for first or second in the WCC. So they have everything to play for. Pride, home floor, beating Gonzaga one last time in the conference, everything could be on the line for the Gales. But for Gonzaga, the main thing that's on the line is NCAA tournament seeding. you're going to be the first number one seed in the WCC tournament. That means that you're not going to have to play either Santa Clara and St. Mary's will finish second and third in some capacity in terms of their seeding in the WCC tournament. One of them may be tied with Gonzaga, but they will be the number 2 seed. And the other will be the number 3 seed. That is locked in. They are miles ahead of everybody else in the conference. So getting the number 1 seed in the tournament is monumental for Gonzaga in the sense that their path to the championship does not go through either of those teams. They will play somebody else. Oregon State is probably going to be the team that gets that 4th seed, which means they get a bye until the round before Gonzaga, and they get a chance to play whoever advances, whether it's Pacific, whether it's Portland, whether it's whomever, San Diego, et cetera, et cetera. It could be anybody. But Gonzaga will play one of those teams, literally anybody other than Santa Clara and St. Mary's. That's a huge advantage, but it also means that Gonzaga won't, this is their last quad 1 road opportunity. They won't have 3 more quad 1 games. They'll have 1 more quad 1 game at St. Mary's. And then assuming they advance to the WCC championship game, that will very likely be a quad 1 game because it will likely be between either St. Mary's or Santa Clara. Both those teams are top 50 in the net. It's a neutral site game. That's a quad 1 game. So Gonzaga likely has 2 quad 1 games remaining on their schedule. One of them is this road game in Moraga. You don't want to lose this. Again, for pride, for finishing the regular season strong for a variety of reasons, rivalry aspect of it. But it also does matter because Gonzaga is currently in that number 3 seed conversation for the NCAA tournament. A 3 seed could play in Portland. You'd get an opportunity to not have to square off with the 1 seed until you've advanced a couple of rounds. You get a 14 seed, then you get a 6 seed or an 11 seed, and then you get a 2 seed. Gonzaga is capable of beating those teams, especially if Braeden Huff comes back. Gonzaga is going to have a hard time against the 1 seeds. You don't want to be a 4 seed. You want to be a 3 seed. There's a big difference. And for Gonzaga, a win on the road against St. Mary's on Saturday, I will not say that it cements them as a 3 seed. Far from it. But it helps a lot. A lot. A loss to St. Mary's doesn't guarantee that Gonzaga doesn't get a 3 seed, but I think it puts their odds at under 50%. If you lose to St. Mary's, and you win the WCC championship, maybe. You're probably between a 3 and a 4. But if you win out, I think you're very, very likely a 3 seed. It would be a surprise to me if Gonzaga wasn't a 3 seed. Heck, they could be in the conversation for a 2 seed. I think a 3 seed would be the most likely outcome, but I think that they could be at least in that conversation. That's a big thing that Gonzaga is absolutely playing for on Saturday night, in addition to, again, all of the other aspects of this game. But it is nice that Gonzaga knows, regardless of what happens in Moraga, they will be the number 1 seed, and they will at least have a share of the regular season title. Because, again, if Santa Clara wins this game, they will move to 15-2. If Gonzaga will be 16-1. If Gonzaga loses to St. Mary's, Santa Clara wins their last game, they will finish tied for first. Gonzaga and Santa Clara, but Gonzaga has the tiebreaker because they swept Santa Clara in the regular season. Likewise, if St. Mary's wins this game against Santa Clara and also beats Gonzaga in the regular season finale, they will be tied with Gonzaga for the share of the regular season title, but Gonzaga has the tiebreaker over St. Mary's because even though they would have split the regular season, the next tiebreaker, according to the WCC, is your record against the next best team in the league. That is Santa Clara. Gonzaga's 2-0 against Santa Clara this year. St. Mary's, again, even if they beat them tonight, as I'm recording this, they lost to them earlier this year, so Gonzaga would get the tiebreaker. That is how we know that they are guaranteed to be the number 1 seed in the West Coast Conference Tournament. Last thing I want to say on this was a news that came out just before the game against Portland. There's a documentary coming out about the Zags, coming out on March 6th on Tubi. It is called Gonzaga, The Slipper Still Fits. Not a super original name for the documentary, but whatever. I digress on that. 74-minute documentary on the Mark Few era of Gonzaga basketball. It's been apparently a couple of years in the making. Tons of sit-down interviews with a lot of guys in the NBA: Chet Holmgren, Andrew Nembhard, Jalen Suggs, Domantas Sabonis, Drew Timme, Adam Morrison, John Stockton, Nigel Williams-Goss, among the many people that were interviewed for this. It also has a lot of unseen, behind-the-scenes footage obtained from the 23-24 season, which is when they started making this documentary. Tubi's free. If you got it, you want to watch something in March in those couple of days before Gonzaga starts the WCC tournament, it'll be out on March 6th. Definitely worth checking out. I know I will be. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for me today here on the Locked On Zags podcast. Thank you again for making the show your first listen of your first watch of the day. Huge congratulations to this Gonzaga team and this group of seniors for winning the conference in their final year. Always fun to be able to say that 23rd time in the Mark Few era. We're going to have a show on Friday, of course, getting you ready for Gonzaga showdown with the Gales of St. Mary's. So look out for that in your feeds. But until then, as always, especially on a day like tonight, go Zags.